Hi everybody, this is Lara with your weekly video for Bitcoin for the week beginning Monday 10th of October 2022. This wave count, the Elliott wave analysis is pretty much the same, and I'm still expecting a third wave up at primary and cycle degree as in its early stages, and these large movements for Bitcoin do tend to start out slowly. My minimum price expectation, 392275, is not a target. It's a minimum expectation. A target would be higher than that. I expect the low of December 15, 2018 at 319130 to remain sustained or remain intact. Elliott wave analysis first, classic analysis last. And I covered monthly charts in last week's analysis. I've linked back at the start of the article to that article with charts and with video if you need to. If you're new here, Elliott wave is fractal. You have to fit the weekly chart into the monthly chart picture, and then from the weekly chart we go down to the daily to check subdivisions at lower time frames, lower fractals. This Elliott wave count sees cycle wave 1 over in December 2017 and the following bear market, which lasted a year, as cycle wave 2. It's an 84% correction of 1. This is very normal for Bitcoin. Its big second waves are commonly very, very deep, commonly in the 80 to 90% range or even deeper. When 2 ends, 3 begins. Cycle wave 3 may only subdivide as an impulse. And from this low to this high, I'm going to label primary wave 1 of the impulse complete. It subdivides as a 5-wave motive structure as it must. Primary wave 2 is most likely over down here as a double zigzag. It's a 78% correction of primary 1. That's still within it's very deep, and that's quite normal, still within a very normal range for a big second wave correction for Bitcoin. If primary 2 does continue lower, and I do have that alternate daily chart which allows for it to continue lower, then a normal range would be for it to end from 80 to 90% the length of primary wave 1, which would be 16310.97 to 9751.14. Primary 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 3191.3035. This is the risk here to this analysis for Bitcoin. Quite possible that primary 2 could move lower. What would reduce that probability would be a breach of the upper edge of this channel, which contains primary wave 2. If we see a full daily candlestick above and not touching this trend line, then I'll probably move the invalidation point up here. I would be confident that primary 2 would be over. Look at the daily chart for this first wave count, where the low here of primary 2 is this point here. The first wave up, I'll label minute degree, but I might need to change the degree of labeling here. It might need to be moved up 1 degree. From this low to this high, this upward movement fits perfectly as a leading contracting diagonal. Diagonal in a first wave position, the following second wave is commonly very deep, and here minute 2 is very deep. Minute wave 1 broke back within the channel. Minute wave 2 has found support around the lower edge. Any lower, minute 2 may not move beyond the start of 1, below 17708.623. From this low to this high now, there may be a series of 3 overlapping first and second waves, minuet 1-2, sub-minuet 1-2, and now micro 1-2. It's also possible from this low to this high to label this movement as a complete leading contracting diagonal. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That fits and meets all Elliott wave rules. It'll be followed by a second wave correction. So the difference between the two ways of labelling at this point in time really isn't material. So I'll just publish this one chart for this main wave count this week. If we see a new high above 22,673.82, we can have reasonable confidence now in this main Elliott wave count, because that is the price point at which this alternate would be invalidated. Considering the possibility that primary wave 2 is continuing lower as a single zigzag, let's jump back to the weekly chart and I'll show you how I'd label that. A, B, and then C would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5 moving lower. So if primary 2 is continuing lower as a single zigzag, here's the end of 4 and now 5. 2 problems here. 4 is disproportionate to 2. It's a lot longer lasting than 2. It's okay for Bitcoin and other cryptos to have fourth and second waves that are disproportionate, but only when the second wave is a lot longer lasting than the fourth wave. That's actually pretty normal. It's quite unusual, not unheard of, but it's unusual for it to be the other way round. And here, this is the other way round, so that reduces the probability of this wave count. Also, minor wave 4 fits quite nicely as a triple zigzag. While they're not rare structures, they're rather uncommon, so again the probability of this wave count in Elliott wave terms is reduced. If 4 is over there, 5 should be underway. I have 2 targets for this. The first target for intermediate C to reach equality in length with A at 12,417, and below that for minor 5 to reach equality in length with 3 at 10,594.35. These 2 targets would bring primary 2 down to within that really normal 80 to 90% the length of primary 1 range. So if we do see a new low by any amount at any time frame below 17,708.623, the main wave count will be invalidated. This will become the alternate. If that happens, here are the targets for expected support. It's still expected to be a big bear market counter trend movement. The bigger picture for Bitcoin is still up. So if this turns out to be the correct wave count, then I would use this as a buying opportunity when I would see primary 2 could possibly again be over. Looking at that for the very, very long term picture is what I would be doing there. At the weekly chart level, this is a common wave count out there. Instead of seeing primary 1 over here, what if intermediate 4 wasn't over there? What if it continued further and primary 1's incomplete? So primary 1, intermediate 1, 2 and 3, this is all the same as that first weekly chart up to this point. And now, what if intermediate 4 was over here as an expanded flat? A, B, C. If it continues further, it may not move into wave 1 price territory below 13,826.76. The reason why this is my alternate, and I judge it more likely for that primary 1 was over here, the reason why this is an alternate is here intermediate 4 lasted 61 weeks, intermediate 2 lasted 37 weeks, intermediate 4 is 1.5 times the duration of intermediate 2. It's normal for second and fourth waves to be disproportionate for this market, but not this way round. This is what I mean. This is a very typical, normal-looking impulse for intermediate 1. It has a deep, time-consuming second wave. It was an 83% correction of minor 1. It accelerates through the middle, a brief, shallow fourth wave, and then it explodes at the end. This explosion of the fifth wave and also the strong fifth wave for minute 5, so minute 5 and minor 5 are both strong fifth waves. They're forcing minor 4 to be more brief and shallow than its counterpart minor 2. That's really normal behaviour for this market. It's really quite unusual for the fourth wave to be longer lasting than the second. So the probability of this wave count is reduced. Absolutely a valid wave count though. Classic analysis. There really isn't much changed this week. Bitcoin's just basically moved, well, sideways but slightly higher. It's nearly a mirror image of the previous week. A small range week. Really small real body, bit of a bearish upper wick, but this week also a decline in volume for overall upward movement, so that's a little bit concerning for the bullish case. There is, however, this bullish divergence between price and RSI after RSI reached oversold at the weekly chart level. That would support the view that these lows back here are likely to remain intact. Volume was pushing price higher last week, but this week volume declines. On balance, volume is within a weak range. It's at weak resistance. This trend line only has 3 prior anchor points, but it's fairly horizontal. This may assist to hold a rise in price. ADX at the weekly chart level still declining, no clear trend. We've been over RSI. Money flow shows that same bullish divergence that supports the main Elliott wave count and not that daily alternate, which is more bearish. ATR continues to decline as price moves sideways. Absolutely normal behaviour. If this market is in the early stages of a new bull run, that's normal. Stochastics oversold, but I'm just leaving the correlation coefficient here for Bitcoin and the S&P. A lot of people are assuming that they should move together. They absolutely do not have to. The math shows that the normal positive correlation can totally break down and move into negative. It's done so before. It could do so again at any time. Their relationship is not reliable, quite unreliable actually. At the daily chart level, we've got some resistance here about 20,200 and support about 18,500. Last week, the volume profile was bullish, but this week it's now bearish. There's a little bit more push on downward sessions than there is on upward. And this last incomplete session is showing again an increase in volume. However, overall, as price is falling, overall a little bit of a decline in volume. On balance, volume is constrained at both the daily and weekly chart levels. Watch for a signal if it breaks above resistance or below support at either time frame. ADX declining at both time frames. Neither weekly nor daily chart levels are showing any clear trend at this time. Price is consolidating, swinging from support to resistance and back again. Look out for next support at 18,500 and for stochastics to get down into oversold. If that happens, if stochastics reaches oversold and price reaches support, we'll expect the downward swingers over there, and then an upward swing may then begin. That's all from me with your Bitcoin analysis this week. I hope everyone had an awesome weekend.